Hey everyone, and welcome to phase 2, the baby bonding stage. Okay, so this is a very, very critical time, and this phase will really set you up for success and really get to know your baby and kind of what's going on with them, their positioning, their anatomy, anything that's going on in their mouth, anything like that. So we're gonna go through a few things. There's kind of a lot on this one, so I'm gonna try and make it smaller and fit. There's also going to be 2 parts to this as well, because I don't want everything to be so overwhelming. But the first thing that you're going to do is this phase is actually, oh, you know what? Let me write this first. This phase is birth to 24 hours. This little circle, but the 24 means hours in nursing. So birth to 24 hours. So this phase, super important for birth to 24 hours. So one of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to make sure you bring your colostrum. So bring your frozen colostrum. If you just hand express some colostrum and it's in the last 4 days, it's actually really good. You can just leave it in the fridge. You don't have to have it frozen. So you're going to bring that, and then right away what you're going to do is you're going to tell the nurse that you have your frozen colostrum. You're going to ask them for some labels, and you're going to label them probably with the same date and time, and then it's a breast milk label that's attached to your name, and you're going to ask to put those in the freezer. Now don't worry, every hospital has a freezer somewhere, okay? Whether they have a NICU or a nursery or an L&D, all of the temperatures have to be regulated. I know this because I do have to go around and check them and make sure they are certain ranges at all times, and if not, we have to move them from one to another and get them fixed. So there is a place. So just bring that right away in, surrounded by some ice in those big Ziploc bags, and bring those and relabel those if needed. Maybe you can just pop a label on the whole bag. Hopefully they don't make you label all of them, because there can be a lot of them if you've been doing this for a while. So make sure you bring that and do not forget it. If you if you go in for an induction or something and you know it's not gonna be until the next day and dad's gonna go somewhere, you can grab them later, but I would just make sure you have those on hand. So when your baby is born, say if it's super quick, you have that available, okay? So you wanna bring that, all right? Oh, and the easiest way to use your frozen colostrum is to just put the whole syringe like in a small baggie, and then in some warm to hot water in a bowl. Literally that's all you need, and just let it sit in there for a few minutes, and then it should unfreeze, and you can use that for your baby. I do not recommend warmers, except if your hospital has a warmer that's a Medela warmer. Like they're like these big yellow ones. They're pretty expensive, but those heat perfectly. So you can heat up your colostrum in that, but otherwise you can just use it. Use a cup or a bowl and some warm to hot water and heat up the syringes that way. And just do that for like 5 to 10 minutes. And then it should be perfectly fine for your baby, okay? All right, so number 2 is you are going to go over your plan. Go over, BF is breastfeeding, breastfeeding plan with your baby nurse. Okay, so for this one, there's a few different ways, different hospitals do it, who's going to be taking care of your baby after delivery. So at my hospital, we call it a transition nurse, and I do that as well. And it's the L&D nurses that actually transition the babies. Or sometimes other hospitals have the supervisor catch and deliver the babies. They state the APGARs, and then they hand it off to the labor nurse or another nurse. So just when you get there, or even beforehand, if you really wanted to call and ask them what the plan is, but I don't think that's necessary. Just go and talk to them and wondering who's going to be taking care of your baby afterwards. Afterwards, you want to have that conversation with them and let them kind of know. You don't have to give them your plan, because let me tell you, being a nurse, all these nurses ridicule plans. They are nasty at the desk. No matter how sweet they are, they tell everybody at the desk that you have a breastfeeding plan or a birth plan, and they ridicule you at the desk. I know it's super nasty. We are just human nature, and it's terrible, but they will ridicule everybody. So don't give them your plan. Just kind of be like, hey, I'm doing skin to skin after delivery. Do not separate me and my baby, and things like that. So go just find out who your nurse is. Try to find somebody who's more like-minded, that's more natural and holistic and doesn't want to separate you and baby, and will help you with breastfeeding and things like that. So definitely try and find somebody that's more like-minded. If not, then be very firm and have your dad or support person be very firm as well. Like, we have a plan. We choose to exclusively breastfeed. We have extra milk on hand. This is what we are doing. And be an advocate for you and your baby, because I see this all the time where people are just like talked over and they're like, no, you can't do that. And it's like, yes, I can. I have my rights and this is what I'm going to be doing. Okay. Okay. So number 3 is you definitely want to breastfeed in that golden hour. Okay. Now, this is going to be different if you have a NICU admission baby. So we will talk about that differently. I will do another video on that, kind of attached with the NICU breastfeeding plan, because that can be a whole video in itself. Okay, but the golden hour, that's the first hour after birth where your hormones are switching from the baby not being in you anymore, and your body gets that message like, oh my gosh, we just delivered, we have to start making milk. So you want to breastfeed within that first hour. Very crucial. You want to try and do both sides, just as nice long feedings on both sides as much as possible. Okay, now no separation. So you want to, if your baby's doing okay, which I have been a transition nurse, so I know sometimes these babies come out really stunned. If you're on any medications like Zoloft or any type of antidepressants, that kind of makes the babies kind of, we call it stunned, but basically they hold their breath after delivery. There have been some times where I do need to take them to the warmer because they need some extra oxygen and things like that. So obviously if your baby's like, there's an emergency and they need to take your baby just for that, as soon as they're okay, ask them to have them back skin to skin. There should, like, don't weigh the baby first and do all that. Like, you can do that after. We really want to have that connection and have you bonding with your baby, smelling your baby, they're smelling you. That really helps your milk supply as well. So you want all those things, and the more separation is gonna decrease some of those initial natural bonding experience and helping your milk supply. So the golden hour, you definitely want to breastfeed in that golden hour as much as possible. Okay, if you're having issues, see if a lactation nurse is available to help you. Usually there's not, especially if you're in a large hospital where there's multiple deliveries. They usually don't see you until you're over on postpartum, so that can be a little tricky. Okay, you definitely want to stay skin to skin. Okay, skin to skin. Okay, so skin to skin is just a hat and a diaper. Okay, even screw the diaper. Baby doesn't even need a diaper. If they pee or poop on you, it's fine. Like, not the worst thing in the world, but just that skin to skin bonding experience. And they'll be soaking in all that vernix. That's good for you too. All of that skin to skin really helps regulate their breathing, their heart rate, and most importantly, their blood sugar. So if they had a long, tough delivery, skin to skin is going to do really great, especially if you lay them straight down on your chest and up and down. Sometimes we put babies on mom sideways and the air comes in through the blankets and gets them really cold. So just try and snuggle with them. I would recommend also increasing the heat in the room. Increasing heat to above like 74 degrees. Okay, this, I know it's going to be hot, you're going to be in labor and you're going to be like sweating, but it's very important because those babies get super cold super fast. That cold air just comes in and it cools them off, and then that can have a potential risk of separation, and they need to be reheated on a warmer. But your baby, your body is the best way to heat and hold heat in your baby, but having the room warmer is also super helpful. And then it's not as of a shock to them when they go from like 98.6 degree body heat out to like 68 degrees in the air. Like, that's a huge drop, and we see a huge drop in temperature. So just make sure that room temp is up and stay skin to skin with them. 1 or 2 hats and nice and swaddled. So if you do start breastfeeding or anything like that, make sure the whole rest of them is covered and there's not like big air pockets to go in, because they'll get cold really quick. trying to breastfeed. But definitely having the room warmer is gonna help as well. Okay. Number 5, delay or / no bath. Okay. There are some times where they have to do baths. Like if your baby is hepatitis B positive, for any reason, those babies do have to be bathed. So just bring like a non-toxic soap, like the Dr. Bronner's fragrance-free baby soap. We can get it at Target, Walmart, Amazon. Is fantastic. So I would use that one because all the soaps at the hospital are probably one of the worst soaps for babies. So don't do that. So if you need to bathe them, otherwise, if you do want to have your baby bathed, just delay it at least for 24 hours. I recommend just not bathing them at all while you're there, because really all of that amniotic fluid, that vernix, I know it kind of sounds gross, but you constantly smelling that helps your milk supply come in. It's just the natural way that we were made, and to smell that on your baby and them smelling you is really help those hormones, those love hormones, oxytocin, everything. So delaying the bath and not being separated. Also, if your baby pooped in labor and delivery, not a big deal. The meconium, the baby's first stool, is actually sterile, which means yes, technically it is waste, but it's sterile. So it's not very dirty. It's all like their skin cells and amniotic fluid that they've been drinking and everything for 9 months. So I know it kind of sounds gross, but you do not need to bathe your baby either. Don't let the nurses or anybody tell you differently. This is your baby. If you do not want to bathe them, you do not have to. If feeding them is like one of the most important things, so don't let those other things deter you from that. Okay. Number 6, you're gonna check for lip and tongue ties. Check for lip and tongue ties. Okay, there's going to be a whole other separate video on this, because there's a lot that entails about education, what to look for, if you need a procedure to get that taken care of. But if you notice, like if you're having a lot of a very hard time latching your baby right after birth, and you're just not sure what's going on, and it's like super pinchy, like if you get latched within like the first like 1 to 2 minutes, and it's still like toe curling pain, like you can't handle it, and you have a deep latch and good positioning and everything, check their mouth. Okay, so watch that video. That's going to be in this series as well, so you can check out that video to see how that's doing. Okay. Another thing is, so if you have a baby that's like that and you can't breastfeed, and things aren't going well, then you want to watch the Sleepy Newborn Secrets video. All right, so watch that video if your baby is just like, if it's a preterm infant and they're kind of floppy and they're really not like a very active baby to nurse, and they're really not feeling it. The major thing that's most important is still stimulating and taking some of that colostrum out right after birth in that golden hour. This golden hour is key, okay? Whether it's baby that is breastfeeding efficiently and taking out your milk, or if it's a pump, or if it's hand expressing, either way, you want to make sure you do some form of stimulation or taking out that colostrum in the first hour, okay? This Sleepy Newborn Secrets video kind of really explains some other things when baby is sleepy, but you can do some similar things there. You can either break out your own pump from home, okay, and just pump for like 15-20 minutes. You can just hand express for 15-20 minutes, and then just remain skin to skin with your baby. But either way, you do want to make sure you still stimulate or take out your breast milk, and definitely do that. And then in the meantime, if your baby still won't latch, or if it's too painful and you can't do it, then this is where you're gonna have your frozen colostrum come in. Okay, you're gonna give them just 5. Here, we can kind of write it over here. Okay, within the first 24 hours, 5 to 10 mLs. Okay, is perfect for your baby. They were just born. Okay, they still have that placenta nutrition going for the first 24 hours, like to help maintain their nutrition. Okay, so if you don't have a lot of colostrum, then I would say for frozen colostrum, then I would just say stick more to the 5 mLs. If you do have a lot, then just give them a full 10, and that gives you a longer time to kind of reevaluate your plan and kind of figure out what's going to go over next. Okay. But the main thing is, this is why it's important to have your pump, because if there is something wrong, if there's some tongue or lip tie issues, or say, for example, we had a baby a couple weeks ago that they had an unknown cleft lip and palate, and it wasn't caught on ultrasound. Now think about it, ultrasound is a man-made invention. It is not 100% accurate. So this baby came out with a huge cleft lip and palate, like had a huge hole up top, and she couldn't breastfeed. Okay, that was devastating. However, she didn't have a plan in place. She didn't have a breast pump. You know, she couldn't get started pumping, and then, you know, overwhelming. So this is why the prepping phase is so important, because then if you get to any type of little challenge in these first couple of moments with your baby, you can right away like reevaluate, reassess, and know what to do next. And this is where I'm going to be available in our private Facebook group. Reach out, message me, DM me, message on the group. Some other moms will jump in and kind of tell you, you know, and share some of their moments and what they did, and what were helpful and everything. So kind of go from there. But this is why having your own colostrum ready for your baby, and having your own pump that you can pump right away if you don't have somebody there. Now, all hospitals have breast pumps, almost all. I would think they would all have breast pumps, because that's one of the major things. But every hospital I've been to, I know they have breast pumps if they have babies there. I've come across a situation recently where we were like short-staffed, but also so busy. There was like bing, bang, boom. I think we had like 7 or 8 babies within like 2 or 3 hours, and it was just crazy. So I felt so bad. There was a mom that her baby got admitted to NICU, and I wasn't able to bring her a pump, and the labor and delivery nurse was super busy, and she couldn't bring her a pump, and our lactation nurse wasn't on that day, and she couldn't bring her a pump, and literally she didn't start pumping until like 5 or 6 hours after delivery. Now that's a huge delay. Yes, you can play catch up, you can do those things, but it's very important. So if she had her pump in her bag, she could have just set it up and just pumped on her own while everybody was too busy. And that happens. That's just life sometimes. Babies don't tell you when they're going to come, and some days in the hospital things are just so busy, and there's limited time for things like breastfeeding. And it's the last thing that kind of comes on the list sometimes, and I hate to say that, but it's the truth, and it kills me that I have to do that sometimes, that I had to walk away and I literally didn't have the time. But we had some pretty sick babies that took higher priority, and that just really killed me. So that's why prepping and reevaluating your plan is super important. So that's number 8 on the list, actually, is reevaluating your breastfeeding plan. Reevaluate. I can't say this enough. Things change, but if you have your birth plan, I would have a backup birth plan B if things go wrong, or just print out all those birth plans, have them all in your bag. You know, you never know what challenge you're going to come across that you need one for your baby. Okay, whether it's the lip and tongue ties, or it's a late preterm infant, or you have a NICU baby, or blood sugars. Like, there's all those different things where they need different things, and you might need to constantly reevaluate your plan in order to be successful. And yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work in the beginning. If you do the work now, you're going to set yourself up for success for the next coming like weeks and months, and then it's going to be more enjoyable. You're going to be less stressed. Do it. And here's the thing, like, having these step-by-step, like, you can follow it as a guide. You can reach out to me and some of the other fellow moms in the Facebook group right after delivery. Like, I'll be on it all the time, because the main thing is I want to support you and help you in this journey, because I know it can be really hard, and with the lack of resources in some hospitals, you're just left on your own. And being prepared and being more knowledgeable about some things that might come up, you'll be better prepared, and you'll be happier, and you'll be less stressed. So definitely sometimes you're going to have to reevaluate your plan, And then, you know, sometimes it's like 1 step back, 2 steps forward, and kind of things like that. So that is definitely part 1 of phase 2. So this is basically kind of right after birth. Usually they do like a transition period is like 2 to 3 hours after birth. So you'll deliver an L&D, and then after that you'll go to postpartum. And so usually after 2 to 3 hours. So this is like all happening in 2 to 3 hours, which is a very, very short time. So I know when I had my son, it was the same thing. It was like, it felt like a blink of an eye, and then all of a sudden you're moving over, and you know, your baby gets sleepy again, and you kind of miss some of these opportunities. So it's very fast. So that's why having a plan and kind of going over it and what you're going to do in these situations will help. Okay. And then helping your husband or your support person, helping you guide you along as well. That will be super important. Okay. So next we're going to be going on to part 2 of the baby bonding phase.